Hey, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Artificial Intelligence. This is the, fifth episode?
We don't know.
Yes.
We've got no idea.
No.
Absolutely no idea.
It's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a while. I think it's the fifth episode. It's been about a month since the last one.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been quite a while. But welcome back to another episode of Artificial Intelligence, guys. Jay here, obviously, with me, Ben, the alpha male host.
All right, Dr. Benji FM, back again with another one of these. I say back again like we're doing it regularly. We're not. We're like a girl who could be pregnant. We don't know if we're on or not, do we?
No, not really. I wouldn't have used that analogy, but...
Well, it makes sense. Works.
Well, the reason we've been away is we had 1 week off, didn't we, back in December.
We had our Christmas break.
Yeah.
Now we've had the January, February break.
Yeah. This wasn't sort of caused by anything in particular, I should say. I will take full responsibility for our impromptu vacation of doing podcasting. Basically, every single week when we're due to record, it normally happens on a Wednesday. I am supposed to notify Ben a couple of days before because obviously he's a busy man, obviously.
Obviously.
And I sort of forgot all about it completely. Well, wholeheartedly, really.
It's all right.
Forgot it
I
existed.
wasn't. I just thought you were busy. I thought, you know what? He's busy. I'm a little bit busy. We're busy people.
Yeah.
But I think from now on, we'll try and get these out weekly again, so they can become a part of people's routine.
Absolutely.
All right. Lovely old job.
Yeah. Good.
I've got a topic.
Okay.
So you changed your channel in the new year. You rebranded yourself in many ways. You started showing your face. You know, you got things going. How do you feel that's gone then? Because that's obviously quite a big thing for you.
Yeah, it was a huge thing. It was a huge deal, really. I think it's been okay. I think the reaction has been okay. I think what people don't seem to realise is how big of a deal it was. Obviously, I don't tend to discuss much about my personal life anymore. As my channel has grown, I've sort of shut myself in a little bit. But I think most of my older subscribers would know I have like a huge sort of body dysmorphia type of issue. It was quite hard to put myself out there. But I sort of faced it head on, really.
Face on.
Genius, Ben. Excellent
Thank you.
stuff. Well
Thank
done.
you very much.
Brilliant. Great one there.
There'll be more comedy later, folks. So stay tuned.
More of that on Dr. Benji FM, I'm sure.
Indeed.
I sort of faced it head on, and I'd done, I think it was 4 sort of like in real life videos in 5.5 years, and now I've done 5 in just over 5 weeks. So it's been quite the change. But I must say the reaction, particularly on my first ever sort of video on the 1st of January, the face reveal, was largely positive. And that sort of helped me. I think I'm someone who sort of plays off emotion, if that makes sense. And I sort of respond best to praise as opposed to criticism. I have a friend who he wants you to goad him because he thrives on that sort of thing. But for me, I'm the total opposite. If someone's criticising me, that's it. I'm shutting myself away. If someone loves me, I'm more willing to be more open. And because my audience seem to be so positive about it, I've kept on going, and I think it's only a good thing for the future of my channel, really. So
I agree with that. Well, I mean, let's go behind the curtain, Joe. I've been encouraging you to do this for about a year, probably.
Pretty much the day we met. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So I was really pleased. I wasn't ever sure if you would do it, so I'm really pleased that you've done it and you got a good response to it and you're carrying it on. It's one thing to do like a face reveal, but to be actually including it in all your videos now, I think it's great, and I think people will in turn respond to that as you keep doing it, and it'll become the norm. And I think now it is probably the norm for a lot of people. And in many ways, it's probably sick of your face, Jay. So you know, which can you blame them?
No.
Joking, of course. There was the comedy. I did promise it earlier on. So yeah, I'm pleased you've done new things, and obviously you've got your series going on at the moment. You've got a few different ones going on at the moment. You like to do that, don't you? You like to do a little bit of mix and match.
Yeah, I kind of like the variety to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like that. I can't do 2 at once.
Well, you've just started. One, so.
Sorry. Well, yeah, I have. I've done. For those that aren't interested, I'll make you interested. So I play Football Manager on the internet. And much like Joe plays FIFA, I play Football Manager. And I've got a series where I go on a road trip around Europe, taking on different jobs. As you watch this, I mean, I can say this, I've just left my previous club in Ireland and I'm looking for new employment. So if you want to join this, pick up the story sort of 25 episodes in at a new club, then by all means come over and have a look. But yeah, it's interesting doing a new series. I thought the start of a new series is always quite exciting, isn't it? Do you feel there's a bit of hype?
Yeah, absolutely. there's not many things that I enjoy more than working on the first episode of a new series. And it's mainly because I just can't wait to show people. I can't wait to show people what I've made, and I hope they have the same sort of excitement as I do, really.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's very true. I think then you have to try and keep that going. That's the challenging bit, innit? With any series, you've got to try and keep that hype going. But yeah, I think, it's going all right if I can keep it going. Last series it was 200 episodes, too many. So
low episodes, yeah.
Won't be doing that again.
No.
Now, we're not that. Now, this might come as a shock to some people listening, Jay, but we're not the only people doing content on YouTube.
Really? Wow.
No, I know. It came as a shock to me when I saw the trending page. I mean, I should say, I don't know who's in charge of the trending page on YouTube, Jay, but it's not catered to me.
No?
I mean, do you ever click the trending thing?
I mean, it's usually the same, 3 or 4 YouTubers I've found.
Well, that's the point I'm making. Rarely, Jay, the YouTubers that I watch. If I ever go on the trending page, it's often sort of daily vloggers or some sort of brand deal or some makeup gurus or, I don't know, it's always like a top 10 list. There'll be about 5 of those videos. Oh, you will never believe what happened in this film 4 years ago. I'm like, I'll have a guess. I mean, I did the same video last week, mate. So, I don't really know what the trending... Do you never use the trending?
I tend not to. I'm a bit of a traditionalist, really. I have my YouTubers I watch. I keep watching them. I don't really feel the need to expand my horizons in that sense, to be honest.
I'm far more concentrated on my subscriptions list than I am the trending page. Anyway, a topic that has been somewhat trending this week, especially in the UK, is football related. So we'll move on to that. It's what Gary Neville said about Arsenal Fan TV, and then we're going to kind of talk about fan channels overall, what we think about them. Now, what Gary Neville said was, to give people some context, there was a fan at the Chelsea game, which Arsenal lost 3-1, holding up a Wenger out sign, which in itself is like taken out of all proportion. Is quite funny. Just the idea that he's walked in, smuggled it in, and then he's got it ready to pull out is daft. On that, I mean, let's talk about Arsenal generally quickly. Do we think Wenger, are you a Wenger out or Wenger in? Neither of us support Arsenal, but I mean, how do you view it?
Well, I think it's quite interesting, and I think that we might come across as a bit biased here, possibly due to the fact that
surely not, though. Surely not biased.
Well, no, but I mean, in the sense that we're both in our mid-20s, and we've grown up with Arsenal.
Well, early. Say early.
Early to mid-20s. We got to face reality. We're getting there now. Come on, man. Seriously. I don't want to admit it, but it's true.
I'm 26. It's the beginning of the end. Right, go on.
But we've grown up with Arsenal and Arsene Wenger being in charge. And I think you, like me, it's quite interesting, actually, because I briefly discussed this in tomorrow morning's video. You, like me, probably, when it came down to big matches in the Premier League, I know you're a Liverpool fan, but Arsenal versus United was probably one of the most anticipated games to watch. And I think that as the years have gone by, I would never say that Arsenal aren't seen as serious title contenders than before, but there is a general perception now that the club is doing well to just maintain a top 4 finish. Considering where United have fallen to, particularly over the past 2 or 3 years, and since Ferguson retired, that may sound silly to sort of compare the two and still not, diss United per se, but that's not what I'm here to do. I think we'll move on to that next week. I think that, like yourself, when you see someone that sort of smuggled in a banner to a stadium to basically express their opinion in a negative way, I've always felt like there's just too much of that at Arsenal. I've always felt there's just way too much of that, particularly when you consider what Arsene Wenger has done for that club. I mean, I think a lot of people don't seem to appreciate how difficult it is. I mean, Liverpool have found this. Every club has found this. Liverpool, Chelsea, United, all the clubs have found this. How difficult it is to stay in the top 4 year after year after year. It's unbelievably difficult. And yet Arsene Wenger has this ridiculous, unrivaled record of being able to do this. And whilst I do accept that I don't believe that Arsenal will win another Premier League title under Arsene Wenger, I still find it extremely difficult to be on the Wenger out bandwagon, because I think that people aren't taking into consideration what a fantastic job he's done over these years, despite working with a very, very difficult top brass at Arsenal. And I don't know whether you agree with that, but I can't find myself to be Wenger out, because I just think the job he's done is remarkable, and he's taken for granted by an awful lot of those fans.
I think you can look at it on 2 ways. Arsenal currently, much like Manchester United were under Ferguson, are unlike any other club in that they've got a manager who's been there for such a long time now and had so much success there. But there's a point, like, it's so different to what Ferguson did at the end. Obviously, Fergie left on top. Fergie won the league, left it to someone else. Whereas Wenger isn't. It'd be ludicrous for anyone to say Arsene Wenger's leaving Arsenal in a terrible position. He's not. If and when he leaves, he'll probably be leaving him in a really good position, unless of course they finish outside of the top 4 and all of a sudden it's mayhem. Like, you talk about this great record. As soon as that great record falls to bits, like, at that point you've got to question, what is he doing? I think that it'll all come to a head if Arsenal don't qualify for the Champions League this year. Yeah. And I think, as it stands, this is going to be, looks like it anyway, the most difficult year for Arsene Wenger to finish inside the top 4. If he does it, for me, that is a point to move on. If he doesn't do it, that is a point where he has to move on. Because Arsenal fans pay a premium to watch their football club, home and away. And we'll talk about sort of Arsenal Fan TV, and we'll talk about the reaction from Gary Neville and sort of the wider footballing world. Everyone seems to have had their say on it, including us, Jay. And I think, as an Arsenal fan, if I try to put myself, like, we're trying to be sort of non-biased, but I'm going to put myself in the shoes of an Arsenal fan. If, say, I have got a season ticket, or even if I haven't, to be fair, even if I'm a fan from around the world, I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at every other club that are changing, often for the better. You look at what's happened at Chelsea. They've brought in Conte, and they've rocketed. We've seen change everywhere. Pochettino at Tottenham has done wonderful things. You see it at City. They've come from sort of nothing, got all this money, of course, but have also achieved and spent to achieve. And that must be very frustrating as an Arsenal fan, especially an Arsenal fan that is very much remembering the days in which Arsenal were winning things. And Arsenal at this stage aren't a team that are winning things. They've won an FA Cup in the last however long. They've not really been in a title race. Even last year with Leicester, Leicester were always like a little gap ahead. It was never quite there. And I think if I were an Arsenal fan, I would want change by now, and I think I would have wanted it probably a few years ago. The big issue Arsenal fans have is that one of their biggest sort of talkers of Arsenal and talker-uppers of Arsenal is Piers Morgan, who's a bit of a cock, isn't he?
Yes.
So it's difficult to side with someone like that, but I think there is this growing feeling now amongst Arsenal fans that while top 4 is great, and yeah, of course, the grass isn't always greener, like, with the amount that Arsenal fans pay, with the amount of revenue that club generates, they should be challenging for titles. They should be up there with the Manchester United. Like, for example, Tottenham are a few points ahead right now. Tottenham are doing that, and their budgets aren't as big as Arsenal's. Like, their fans aren't paying as much as Arsenal's fans are. So for them to expect less than that would be wrong, I feel like. And I think Arsenal fans are looking at Spurs at the moment probably and thinking, are we being outdone by it? And I think a lot of them are coming to the conclusion that, yeah, we are. So I think it's difficult. Where do you stand on the old fan channels then? Neville had his say. Are you a fan? They've become, in the last few years on YouTube, they've become very popular. Like, from all sorts of the big clubs have got one now. I know Manchester United have got a very well-known one. Liverpool have got the Red Men TV. Of course, you've got Arsenal Fan TV. Where do you stand on this?
I must say, I find it quite hard, difficult, because I don't actually watch them. I've taken a gander at a few. I watched a few videos. But they've never really been so much as sort of drawn my interest and attention. I don't know exactly why that is, though, which is quite interesting, because as someone who is extremely passionate about football, there's not really many things I really look forward to in life, but football and basketball are two things, and particularly football. I've never really been a fan of fan TV and match day vlogs and stuff. I can't really put my finger on why that is, though, which is the difficult thing, really, when it's a podcast and I'm trying to express my opinion. I find it very hard to...
Is it, I mean, I'll try and help you out. Is it because it's not about your club? If, say, for example, Millwall had one, would you be the sort of person that would watch that religiously?
No, and that's the interesting thing.
Well, yeah, that is the interesting thing.
I must say, if someone was to start... Because I think the most interesting about it is because... I'm not even the biggest FIFA Millwall YouTuber, but I've been asked a few times, because I say often I occasionally go and watch Millwall play away when I can afford to. I've been asked by sort of subscribers on my channel, why don't you vlog the games? Why don't you go to the game and vlog it, per se? And I've always
you're a Millwall fan, you'll probably have your camera nicked. So
I've always thought, one. God, no, like, I have no interest in doing that whatsoever. It's like, I don't like the idea of going to a game and making it about business. I go to the game for pleasure, which is a stupid thing to do as a Millwall fan. But I don't think matchday vlogs just have any kind of appeal on me at all, and I don't think it is the problem that there's not one for my specific club. I just think in general, I'm just not a fan of them at all. And what I will say about it is this: when Arsenal Fan TV were mentioned on Sky, I was asked a question about this on Twitter for a Q&A I'll doing tomorrow morning, what I thought about it. I presumed that Gary Neville had said something extremely negative and derogatory regarding Arsenal Fan TV. I watched what he said, and I think Arsenal Fan TV, as you mentioned before we started, have done an extremely good job of spinning this, that it's Gary Neville versus Arsenal Fan TV, when in reality he briefly mentioned Arsenal Fan TV as a platform, said they were outside interviewing, and then proceeded to talk about Arsenal fans in general, not the Arsenal Fan TV. And yet it's suddenly become Gary Neville versus Arsenal Fan TV. I don't know how that's happened. I don't know how they've done that.
I feel like Arsenal Fan TV have become, I mean, I dare say a little bit of a meme. And part of it, like, so for example, you're not someone that really watches fan channels, and I will watch Arsenal. I'm one of those people, I hate to admit, that when Arsenal win, I don't care. I don't want to see some smug Arsenal fans be like, oh, the title race is back on. But if they've lost, I do, like, there's that horrible part inside of me that does quite enjoy watching Arsenal fans get very angry about things. But then more recently, I feel sorry for some of the guys. For example, like you look at Claude, right, and people give him all sorts of grief. And Claude is sort of, for those that don't know, Claude is like an older fan. If you've ever watched Arsenal Fan TV, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But this guy, quite clearly, spends thousands of pounds every year on his football club. It's his one big passion in his life. You can just see it is. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm not criticising him for that. And when his team aren't performing, it must get him down. And I feel like there's a lot of guys that watch them home and away that just feel like, they must be questioning, is it worth it at this point? For year on year on year, like we talk about Arsenal's success, right? They're not even challenging. So it must be like frustrating to hear start of every season, this could be our year. Like Liverpool fans sort of get that rep of saying, oh, next year will be our year. Arsenal fans seem to do it as well. That it will next year be the year, and it never seems to be. With what Neville said, you're right, he was being pretty general. I think in general, he's talking about fans that voice their opinion in a way that isn't helpful to the club. Yeah. Now, there's differences between having an opinion that is something you just want to get off your chest and share, and there's one that is sort of directly trying to influence other fans to become negative. And I think that's a very fine line that Arsenal Fan TV cross occasionally, and don't really manage well enough. But like, I quite like that fans. I think, okay, let me put it this way: fan channels for me aren't really for the people that watch them every week. They're for the people that. And I don't mean people that are on it. I mean people that watch it. Are for the people that can't get to every game, that can't watch sort of every game because they've got other commitments or whatnot, or they're a million miles away and it's very difficult to get to games and things like this. It gives those people a closer. I think that's what it is, isn't it? It's that community idea of this is what our fan base are thinking, and I want to be a part of that by getting involved and watching that. Yeah. And I think for a lot of people that's the case. I think for Arsenal Fan TV, as I say, it's become a bit of a meme. If they lose, there'll be fans from all clubs watching because they know at this point we know what to expect. We know that there's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 guys getting furious, and in a way, that's quite entertaining, Jay.
But don't you think sorry to interject here, don't you think that's a bad thing, though? Don't you think that's a bad thing that there is a potential for them to misrepresent the club and the club's fan base as a whole, because they are growing their platform at such a, they are becoming quite a big platform to the point they were mentioned on Sky, don't you think that's a bad thing? That basically, I think the guy's name who runs it is it Robbie? I think
Robbie.
Don't you think that he has the potential to misrepresent the club's fan base as a whole by choosing what type of fans to put on it? And I think the reason why I find this, and I'm so glad you used the word meme, the reason why I have my sort of negative opinion is because as someone who's in the game of trying to get people to watch their videos, I know what is the main one of the biggest ways to draw people in, and that's reaction. Reaction. And I've always been of this opinion, and I guess this is probably wrong of me as well, and I should say that I accept I'm probably wrong in this sense, but I've always been of the opinion that I would never like to say that someone is putting it on for the camera per se, but I've always believed that there's a potential that Robbie or any there's again Liverpool have one, Manchester United have one, that they're intentionally selecting and choosing the more negative and the more abusive fans because it's a way to get more views plus more money plus more profile. And the concern is that it's going to misrepresent the club as a whole, because when you said Arsenal Fan TV is for those fans that can't get to watch the games because, again, they live in another country or they just can't afford to go all the time, whatever. It's a danger that they're going to see that and perceive not the whole fan base, but a large percentage of the fan base as behaving in the way that Claude does, or Ty, or whoever they are. And using the word meme is again quite appropriate, I feel, because the only time I've ever seen Arsenal Fan TV come up on my timeline, because again I don't follow the channels and whatnot, is when it's said in a negative way. And I follow a couple of really passionate Chelsea fans, and they're sort of taking the mick out of, again, Claude, for example. And it's a danger that a lot of fans are going to see Arsenal and see Arsenal fans perceived as what that person is Robbie is sort of helping them make them out to be.
I think, if you'll allow me, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. I think if you're Robbie, then the perception is becoming a problem, because I think if you look every week, Robbie puts up about, like, Arsenal Fan TV, put up about 15 to 20 videos. So there's this core 5, or it seems to be now, that people are only interested in. If you probably watch all of the 15, you probably get a better idea of what the general consensus is among the fan base. The problem is, though, that in terms of just pure entertainment value, the people that are the most negative are the most viewed. And exactly. The kind of question is that his responsibility, or is he just catering to an audience that want to see what they want to see? Like, it's very difficult, I imagine, for him to promote. Like, the alternative would be that one week he doesn't talk to any of them, and all the videos that go up on that channel aren't from these people that are sort of the names now, the known names. But then will that be deemed wrong? Will he be then seen to, you're just trying to influence Arsenal fans to have a different perception?
But I mean,
it's difficult, isn't it? And I think Gary Neville's right to criticise that some fans are embarrassing, but that's not him having a go at Arsenal Fan TV. That's him saying that some fans in football are embarrassing, which I think any team you support, there are a portion of fans that you look at and think, are you all right, guys? Like, come on, this is getting ridiculous. And then, of course, there's a much larger majority that sort of understand what on earth is going on. In general, I will say that I think fan channels, I do think they're great. I think the fact that they're springing up and they've had so much sort of publicity and they're getting now so much recognition, I think if every team had one in the country, I think that would be great in many ways. I think the community that you can build from that sort of thing is fantastic. But there is, as I said before, there is a fine line between being sort of entertaining and being a little bit just sort of idiotic. And I think some fan channels cross that too much, and I don't think that's something they would disagree with. And of course, it's all about fan opinion. And I will say this, Jay, I much prefer having this sort of content put out than selecting fans on like TalkSport and 606 to provoke reactions of people listening. This, at least you're getting like a very raw reaction straight after a game from people that have actually been to that game, rather than these cherry-picked people on TalkSport that just are trying to provoke a massive debate about nonsense, which seems to be the case a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I will say TalkSport, if you do want me and Jay to fill an hour, we will do. Anything? Do you want to say anything else on fan channels?
No. I see both sides. I think what's quite interesting about this is we sort of see both sides to it, really. And I totally agree that it is. And I think your final point there was great. I do agree. It's best to get a raw perspective from the fans that actually do turn up and do spend hundreds of thousands of pounds watching the games, season ticket, away games in Europe, etc., etc. I think it's much better to have a fan like that than someone that just watches them on TV per se. I just, again, as someone who is, I'm just a little bit cautious to the point where when it's seen as Arsenal Fan TV, I worry they're not catering to all of the fans' perceptions, but those that are most reactionary, and those happen to be the most negative. And I'm worried that presents a biased picture and an unbalanced perception for those that just watch because they like to see the negative reactions, really. But,
sure. Right. A little bit later on, we're going to talk about FIFA as an esport because they had their first sort of FUT Champions big event. But before we do that, Jay, let's talk about the Super Bowl, which happened this week. It's one of my favourite events to watch.
Really?
And I only watch the NFL once a year, pretty much. I find it's incredible. The amount of people that love it. Like, the NFL in America is massive. Like next level huge with how many people care about it. Like, they have days off because of it. Things like this. Do you watch it? I guess is the question.
I don't watch the NFL, but like you, there is one game I watch per year. every single year. I'll stay up to watch it, no problem at all. It doesn't matter how tired I am, I'll certainly put it on. And it's because it's the event, not just the game, it's the event. Yeah. The Super Bowl event. You know, you have the halftime show, which Lady Gaga did this year. Did you enjoy that?
Do you know what? My opinion on Lady Gaga has changed over the last 5 years. I used to think she was just one of these pop stars that came along and was a big fuss over nothing. But one, I think she's bloody talented, actually. I think the reason she is what she is because she's very, very talented. She's one of the better singers we've got in sort of pop culture. Yep. And I thought her performance, the whole shit, but they always are, right? The Super Bowl halftime shows, apart from when Coldplay did it and it was just Chris Martin sweating. I mean, apart from that, I think generally they are quite good. Like Beyonce did one not that long ago, I'm pretty sure. Bruno Mars did one as well. Like, they have the biggest names doing it. And no, I quite like the halftime show, but generally, I feel like I know what's going on in the game. And it was one of the biggest sort of comebacks ever, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
but
was.
I don't know. I like the way America do sport, Jay. I think that's what it is. Like, you're a big fan of the NBA, right? So yeah. How does the biggest game in the NBA compare to like the biggest game in the NFL?
Well, I mean, the Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which we had during last season, was extraordinary. But it's very hard for me to compare the two because whilst I know so much about basketball, it's become my favourite sport. I love it so much. When it comes down to the NFL and watching the Super Bowl, it's like I see the comparison, but it's hard for me to be, not biased because I have such little interest in American football in comparison to the basketball. And when I was watching the Super Bowl, like you, I knew what was going on. I know the objective of the sport. I understand that, but I find it so hard to truly get into it and truly get too immersed into it. And I always feel like I'm bordering on becoming one of those people that just watch one sport for one event. And I've never. It's like, tennis. It's like Wimbledon comes around. Oh, I got to watch the Wimbledon final. Who's playing? Yeah. Djokovic v Murray. Oh, I sit down and watch that.
Strawberries and cream. I think I will. Yeah, it's all of those.
And it's like, oh, you're gonna watch the Australian Open next month? No. So I'll watch Wimbledon, but not the Australian Open. What they'll again, it's like with the NFL. I watch the Super Bowl when a new season starts. Forget it. Like who's playing Florida versus Tampa. Yeah. Nah, not interested.
I wouldn't. I'll be honest. Actually, I've not really followed it. I've got friends that are like really into it, but I didn't really follow it at all until the Super Bowl comes around. And then I'm like, oh, Tom Brady. He's always there. He's always popping up, throwing it around, isn't he? I do like the drama of it, though. I do like the way it's analysed too. I watched the BBC coverage with Mark Chapman, who, as a British person, logically I think you shouldn't be very good at this, but actually I do feel very engaged with him and the other like pundits that are on it as well. Yeah, it's good. I quite like that. Do you know what? I think if we should have a Super Bowl like event. The problem is our version's like the FA Cup, which is just not as good.
Yeah,
is it? I don't know. It's like. Who would it be? It'd be like you get Ellie Goulding out to do a bit of national anthem.
Sure.
And it'd be like that'd be our halftime show. What would be in our halftime show? I think we should just have Anton Deck's Saturday Night Takeaway just slammed in the middle.
Genius.
Maybe just have a bit of that on.
Yep.
And because Wembley's great, so you can do all sorts in Wembley. I don't know. Maybe have. Well, here's an idea. Maybe we should have Lady Gaga in the future do every halftime show out of an FA Cup.
Would she want to do that? I mean, would she really want to do that?
True. It's not like Celine Dion in Vegas, is it?
No.
It's more. Yeah, you're right. It's not. I don't think she want it as a yearly gig. Maybe okay. I've got it right. Everyone is getting tired of the X Factor. Right, it's been going on for ages. Who cares anymore?
Sure.
Just put the X Factor on at the halftime.
Brilliant.
Have three contestants. One of them wins.
Yeah.
Save time. Because otherwise, honestly, Jay, they're dicking about for months with the X Factor. Honestly, just messing about. Just come out, 3 people, we all pick one. Just do it by show of hands at Wembley. 60,000 have voted Mary. She's your winner this year, and then the X Factor's done with. At least we've got it over. Like that's what we need to do. We could call it the FAX Factor.
Genius, absolute genius, Ben.
The Fax Cup, Fax Cup. There you are.
I'm a little bit worried you're trying to infuse them a bit too much. You're sort of destroying the legacy of football's oldest competition there by
ITV. I want to host
putting the X Factor in the middle.
I want to host it. No, because we're and think of the audience. Think of the viewing numbers for both events.
Yeah,
the cross section of people. If you drew 2 circles, you'd have FA Cup one side, X Factor the other. Put those together. It's a global event.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
I can't see this failing. I can't.
They've basically put the Mobos inside the NFL, so let's just get stuff going on.
I mean, the X Factor is a competition on TV which I haven't ever watched or enjoyed. But if it was in the middle of the FA Cup, I might possibly sit down to watch it.
Jay,
possibly.
I've just realised that what the Super Bowl have done, and it's genius, is they've put a section of the MTV Awards inside halftime. And the best part is, America have gone, yeah, whatever. It's a sporting event.
Yeah, but that's Lady Gaga, a worldwide recognised artist. You're talking about X Factor when it's 3 contestants that you never heard of before.
Shane Ward would blow the roof off Wembley. He would blow the roof off it. Bring out Jedward. No, don't. Imagine
that's
it.
Too far.
It's the future. Right, anyway, speaking of big global events that are affecting people worldwide, FIFA, Jay, the game that you play on your channel, have re-entered the esports market. They kind of do it every year. They have sort of the FIFA Online World Cup things and stuff, where you play Ultimate Team, but basically you get a pick of any players you want. I think you minimise to a certain amount of legends and things like this. But we're very contrasting when it comes to esports, aren't we? And I want to ask your audience mainly on this. This is sort of our topic of the week, is esports, and how your subscribers think of it. But how do you think of it, Jay? When someone says to you esports, what's your first thought? I'm intrigued.
I see the appeal. I really do. I definitely see the appeal, and I know you're a big esports watcher.
I am a big esports watcher, very much so.
I mean, you once tried to get me into esports, I remember correctly.
Yeah, it didn't work. It hasn't worked, clearly.
I've always been of the opinion that for me, playing video games, I play it for fun. I love playing. Like, for me, it's like I started playing video games as a very young kid. I'm sure you did as well. And I just love the fun side of it. And whilst I do like the challenge in some ways, when it becomes overly competitive, that's when I lose interest. That's when I lose total interest, because I must say I didn't watch any of the FIFA esports. I know nothing about the players, but I did see on Twitter there was someone I followed was tweeting about it. They said that apparently when the winner won, was it TAS? Am I right?
It was hashtag TAS.
Hashtag TAS.
Who obviously plays for Spencer's team.
Right, explains the hashtag. Apparently, the loser of the final didn't want to shake hands. In some way.
Did he not?
And I just think that's just so...
That's a bit childish, isn't it?
This is the whole point. And with esports, it's like I totally get the appeal, and I totally see why lots of people watch it and want to sort of take part as well. But to me, I sort of play games, and I hope I can form friendships in some way with the people that I play with as well. And I totally get you can do that with esports too, but like when it becomes overly competitive, I've always found that's when people have too many arguments and too many fallouts per se. Yeah. And I don't like the drama. I don't like the rivalry. I like the sort of the friendly atmosphere and just the having fun, just taking part and having fun. When there's so much money at stake, when there's so much reputation per se at stake, I feel like it just gets a bit too overly competitive, a bit too bitter. And again, that's when I lose interest, because it's no longer about personal enjoyment. It's just who can be better. How can I prove that I'm better? How can I win more money, etc., etc.? And it makes me lose all interest completely, to be honest.
It's interesting because, like you mentioned before, that I tried to get you into esports once, and the esports that I am most into, for those that watch them, I used to watch Call of Duty a lot, but then that kind of fizzled out a little bit, sadly. But Counter-Strike, CS:GO, is probably one of the, if not the biggest esport on Twitch, alongside League of Legends, which also does very well. Dota 2 also very successful. And those are very different to FIFA in the way that obviously you're supporting the sort of a five-man team, an organisation in many ways. And so this conflict you talk about and the way it's competitive is slightly different, because it's not seen as this individualistic, I've got to be better than everyone else. You're literally getting behind a team. Within those teams, they have different roles and that they perform on each team. And obviously there's rostered moves and changes. And at this point in esports as well, we're seeing teams bought and sold for like big amounts of money. We're not quite in like the millions yet, but we're very, very close to the millions. For example, have you heard of FaZe?
Yeah.
They're quite a big sort of YouTube thing as well. They bought a team for $750,000, I think it was dollars. Wow. Or euros, one of those, not that long ago, and they've not even been overly successful, to be honest. But there's certainly becoming more and more money in it. For example, CS:GO have just had a huge major event where they've it was $1 million prize pool. I think the winners get $500,000. That's £100,000 or $100,000 to each player, which is crazy. And that level of competition was picked up by Turner, which are a TV network in America. and they produced it and published it on Twitch and or sort of online, and it was a new level, a next level of how esports is presented. Obviously, it's now done in a theatre or in a stadium. In some cases, it has been in the past, and I'm sure it will be again in the future. So esports is blowing up, and with FIFA, like you brought up a point that I didn't really think about, that it's becoming like, when I hear that the finalist didn't shake hands at the end because he got a bit miffed or whatever, that just makes me a bit sad. And FIFA has always been a difficult esports to sort of capture the imagination of other esports fans, because a lot of it, and I think this is the problem with FIFA as an esport, is that there's a lot of AI involvement within it, as in, ironically, artificial intelligence, Jay.
Yes.
But there is a lot of AI involvement. Do you think that impacts how competitive an esport it can be when it's largely controlled upon computer decisions? Does that make you enjoy it less or more?
I must say, I think you're totally right. I think I probably would enjoy it more if we were seeing all 11 players human controlled.
That's an interesting point, actually. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay, I think the main reason why that is because, as someone who plays it sort of semi-religiously, really, not by choice, I think it's because I know how much the AI can influence a game, and I don't just mean playing against the AI, because I know that this is human versus human, but I mean your AI teammates, when you're just controlling one player, influence the game heavily, because their movement off the ball is a big factor in the entire game. Whereas if it was 11 versus 11, for example, it's all based on pure skill of those players. And again, you're getting behind a team as opposed to one man controlling a largely AI-controlled team.
Yeah. That's interesting, because, of course, FIFA has a competitive pro clubs scene called the VFL, which hasn't ever really taken off to levels which I think it could. Like the way you say there, that you could get behind, in the same way that you do in other esports, in that there's a team there. I would absolutely love to see one day in the future, and I'm sure this could still happen, to have FIFA have a competitive single player FUT champions based on a team. You literally have the best FIFA player, but then the pro clubs aspect could be amazing. I'm someone that plays a lot of pro clubs, probably more so than most game modes on FIFA. I would love to see that. Would that be the sort of thing you would be more interested in? I could, solo players.
Yeah, I could certainly see myself watching pro clubs esports, because again, it's getting behind the team, the group of 11 players, and you just feel more. I don't really know what the word is here, really, but it's like when it is one player, again, because it's so largely dependent on AI teammates, you question, like, not how much of it is skill. But you feel, again, I'm not really sure what the word is here. I'm not really sure how to explain my point in this sense, to be honest.
There's more of a sort of community aspect with it.
That's the best way of putting it.
Yeah, getting behind a full team is often a lot easier than getting behind an individual, which is quite funny to say as YouTubers that have sort of singular channels. But it is, though, isn't it? Like, it's in the same way it sort of relates back to football teams, that it's a lot easier to get behind an entire team than just a single player. Like, very rarely will you find a football fan who is a fan of a player. Do you know what I mean? So you're right in that respect, that it's a lot easier to get behind an idea rather than just an individual. And I think that actually, in a strange way, unless you can make these people into personalities, these esports players, it's very difficult to get behind a solo competitor.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing, because when you mentioned FaZe, I know what FaZe is. I know what the team is. And there's, is it Optic? Is that another one? Yeah,
Optic are one of, they're in sort of the top 5 organisations in the world in terms of esports. And obviously, both of these two are different to most esports as well, because they have huge social online followings. And not every esports organisation has that to fall back on. Now, the new one that's sprung up, of course, is Spencer. And Spencer's got a few players in FIFA. It'll be interesting to see if Spencer decides to go in other areas within esports and decides to have teams in different esports. That'd be fascinating, because he's obviously something he's passionate about, and he's obviously got very good players on FIFA, because he's getting to finals and whatnot. I think what was your point about FaZe? Sorry.
No, I think I can see why people really get invested in becoming part of the FaZe community, the Optic community, because it's you are getting behind that team, you are getting behind that community. You watch them, you get to know the characters, if you will. When it's a one-off person, it's very hard, unless you have personal investment in that person. it's very hard to truly get immersed in what they represent and what they're doing, because it is just one person. And I think that it is quite interesting out of this perspective when you and I obviously do our channel sort of in our own way as individuals. But I think that's mainly because I made this point to you, like and you agree as well. In fact, you said this a few times, people watch you, like I hope people watch me, for the entertainment factor. It's not because we present ourselves as the best at our game. I never like it when someone says, "Oh man, you're the best at Korean," because I don't believe that at all. I don't want people to think that at all. I just want to play the game, produce videos, hopefully entertain people. And that's why I hope people watch my channel, not because I'm good at the game. And I think you're the exact same. You said
I will say no one's watching me thinking this guy's so good at the game. So you've said there. I hate when people say, "Oh, you're so good at the game." I wish people say that. I wish one person would just say, "Oh, you're so good at this." One person, that'd be great. I'd be loving that. But no, you are right. The personality of the teams I mentioned a minute ago. Like you mentioned Optic, weirdly I didn't, but they are the team that I follow. Like I watch them at Counter-Strike, I watch them in Call of Duty, and I watch their owner Hex daily vlog. Like, so I'm that invested in that team that I'd love to know what's going on. I don't watch all the players. I won't pretend I do, but I do watch him, and I do find him like a fascinating character. To the way he's built esports from the ground up, having like a competitive Call of Duty team in the early days of Call of Duty, and now he's got this global brand where he can afford to buy players for like $100,000 and things like this. It's crazy to see. It's fantastic, and I think esports is ever growing. And if you're not into esports, I would recommend watching Counter-Strike before any other. There's new games that have popped up, things like Overwatch more recently. Halo's had a bit of a resurgence, but I think CSGO, Counter-Strike, is, if you're not that interested in FIFA as an esport, give Counter-Strike a go, because it really would be something that you'd be interested in. I want to ask your viewers as well, Jay. I mentioned this at the start. Do you watch esports? If not, why not? And if you do watch it, how long have you been watching it for? What sort of esports do you watch? And maybe finish off as well, did you watch the FIFA this weekend? It was one of the biggest events they've probably had for a long time. It was quite well viewed on Twitch as well, so I'm intrigued to see what people think. But yeah, I felt like this was a good show, Jay.
It was.
Covered a lot of bases today.
We did. Yeah, there was lots in this one. Absolutely lots. We didn't ramble on about the same point over and over again as well, which is really important, because that's something I struggle with quite a lot too. You sort of kept me in check. Good.
Hopefully people enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like on it. Maybe share it around with your friends if you have done, before you click off and whatnot. And I'll leave you now to say goodbye.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for watching, guys. I do apologise for the break. Again, I take full responsibility for it.
I'm not sorry. I've got a life. So. I mean, that's what alpha male would say.
You see, it's when you said at the start, you said, I just thought you were busy like me. No, just laziness. Just pure laziness. just totally forgot all about it and just...
Luckily, the people that have clicked off will just think that. They'll go, oh yeah,
I know,
busy guys.
Brilliant. But no, thank you very much for coming back to watch. We will definitely keep this uploaded on a regular basis. I will make sure of it. We'll be back next Friday, and I know that we briefly discussed it at the start of the channel as well. Lots of people have been talking about the possibility of this becoming more, what's the word here? Just more, you and I doing it basically with face cam. I can't think of any words to describe
more visual.
And yes, that's the right word. Thanks, Ben. Cheers. You're always there to back me up. Alpha male to the rescue as always.
Oh, yeah.
I
not all superheroes wear capes, Jay.
No. I definitely will consider that in the future. We'll certainly consider integrating it in the future, but we'll, for the very least, continue to make this regular. And if you guys could get involved in the questions today as well regarding esports, and also as well, just a jokey question to end on too. What would you have as your halftime show in the FA Cup? Because the X Factor is like, again, as someone who doesn't watch it and never has, I'm not entirely sure if I was at Wembley watching Crystal Palace versus Southampton.
What would you put, the bloody Bake Off?
Well, no, maybe not Bake Off, but X Factor in 15 minutes. I mean, doesn't it go on for about 4 months?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is why I'm trying to narrow it down.
It'll be quite hard to condense it to that degree, though, I think.
At this point, we should do Celebrity Big Brother so you can have relative, like, sort of known celebrities of the time. They get it literally would be a 15 minutes of fame. It all works, Jay.
It does. It's brilliant.
We could call it 15 minutes of fame. Sorry.
Excellent. We've got it. Get ITV on the phone. We know what we're doing.
Forget what you're about to type in. We've worked it out.
Don't worry about it. Genius. What a way to end.
Thank you. Say bye then.
Alright, well, thank you very much for coming to watch. I appreciate it very much. Don't forget to vote with the questions, leave a like if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you for the next episode of Artificial Intelligence next Friday.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Link in the description.
Genius. Had to plug that at the end, didn't you?
I mean, alpha male, similar nature.